All right, well, it's 5 o'clock, so might as well get started.
But everybody, this was sold out, and then people just don't show up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people could be parking right now.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, this is the first of 4 sessions on this particular topic. And my name's Austin. I've been working here for a while, and we've been doing these history programs here in the Igloo room. Igloo's about a year old, so really excited about this one. Been working, it's been a long time coming, and got a lot of help from Revolutionary Westchester 250. This is a group that's all about revolutionary activity in Westchester County. So got their website link right there. Got a ton of help from them.
Over here.
Yeah, 2 representatives. And,
3.
they helped me a lot with the research on this. And yeah, so I put together a presentation that uses AI to kind of tell the story of Benedict Arnold, John André, and the 3 honest militiamen. Okay, it's an interesting story, and like I said, I used a lot of different technologies to put it together, and hope you enjoy it. So let me go ahead and fire it up.
On May 2nd, 1750, a baby boy was born in London. He was destined to have an extraordinary life and play a part in an important story in American history. This baby boy was John André. As he grew up, he'd be well educated, fluent in multiple languages, and possessing several artistic skills. Eventually, his love for the arts would be matched by an interest in the military. And so, he would become a redcoat, just before the American Revolution started to heat up. He would rise the ranks and become a key intelligence agent for the British, and famously coordinate with one of the most notorious American traitors in history, Benedict Arnold. Had their plot succeeded, history as we know it could have been completely different. For one thing, the Redcoats could have won the war. Thankfully, though, a trio of ragtag militiamen got in between André and Arnold in the quiet woods of Tarrytown, New York, in Westchester County. And there, the greatest betrayal of the American Revolution began to unravel. It's an 18th century espionage story, full of drama, in the midst of war, featuring a charismatic spy and a fallen hero. It's got everything. Let me take you back to Connecticut at the beginning of the American Revolution. There, a prominent merchant and leader in the New Haven community was working hard. Benedict Arnold. That's right. Before Arnold was a traitor, he was a traitor. He would begin to despise British policies. And when rebellion erupted in Massachusetts in 1775, he would answer the Patriot call to arms. He had 0 military experience, but on the battlefield he was a natural. He recognized how Continental forces in Boston would have a major strategic advantage if they had artillery from Fort Ticonderoga. And so, he would collaborate with Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys, playing a key role in the fort's capture. And his actions helped kick the British out of Boston. The catch with all of this brilliance? He was kind of hard to get along with. The next year, in 1776, the British came back with a vengeance and attacked New York, starting with Long Island. Soon after that, while the fight was making its way north to White Plains, Nathan Hale, a young American officer and spy, was captured by the British and executed. This was standard practice, but his hanging without a trial and harsh treatment would not be forgotten. Something that should be forgotten is how he's remembered for having said, "I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country." This is not confirmed and was likely added after the fact. Regardless, he faced his fate with courage. And just as he put his life on the line for America, simultaneously, Benedict Arnold showed similar dedication at Great Britain's northern attack up at Valcour Island. The battle would force the British to halt their northern New York campaign for the year. Come 1777, they were back. And once again, Arnold's bravery came to the forefront as he helped orchestrate a relief effort that denied the British attempt to capture Fort Stanwix. But perhaps the ultimate triumph came at the battles of Saratoga soon after, where Arnold's aggressive tactics and leadership played a crucial role in what was arguably the turning point of the war. Taking command, he rode onto the battlefield, rallying American troops and leading a decisive charge against the British. Amidst flying musket balls, Arnold was severely wounded in the leg. Had he died, he might be remembered today as the greatest American general of all time. Oh, how it turned out differently. Despite his battlefield heroics, the major public credit for Saratoga went to General Horatio Gates, adding to a growing list of slights against Arnold. He felt increasingly embittered, believing that his sacrifices and merits were unrecognized. You know, if he were just a little bit less snobby, people might have been more willing to give him credit. But hey, I'm not here to judge. Washington was well aware of the situation, and while he recognized Arnold's flaws, he also valued his strategic mind and would subsequently appoint him to crucial positions like military governor-commandant of Philadelphia. But hold on, I want to talk about what was going on in Philly. At the same time the battles of Saratoga were happening, the British were able to occupy Philadelphia after a series of battles in the region, including Brandywine and Germantown. And you know who was a part of that British campaign? Our boy John André. He was on the rise in the British military, and his talents had impressed prominent British leaders. And to top it all off, his charm and social grace would make him a popular figure in the occupied city. He would entertain Philadelphia's Tory women, including one Margaret Peggy Shippen, a popular woman with loyalist leanings. You can think of her as sort of like the 1700s version of a TikTok influencer. She held much sway and had a close relationship to John André. However, the party was soon over. The time of British forces occupying Philadelphia was relatively short-lived. In June of 1778, they withdrew to consolidate forces in New York City. With Philly back in American hands, Washington would appoint the true hero of Saratoga, Benedict Arnold. He was to be its military governor-commandant. And long story short, things would not go well for him here. Still crippled from his injuries, he was tasked with restoring order to Philadelphia and would face a new kind of battle, one against public opinion. And in that area, he was no natural. His tenure was marred by controversy and scandal. He was having all of these great parties and doing questionable business dealings on the side, which would ultimately lead to serious accusations of corruption and abuse of power. And his relationship with Peggy Shippen, which would culminate in marriage, wasn't helping things. Accusations were growing and growing, and eventually it became all-consuming. The primary accuser was Joseph Reed, who was effectively the governor of Pennsylvania. In 1779, Reed publicized that 8 charges were being prepared against Arnold. Arnold was stung by the accusations, and he would launch a vigorous defense of his actions and his honor. This is ironic, because his treason had already begun. Likely encouraged by his wife Peggy, Arnold would do the unthinkable and betray the American cause. Feeling deeply wronged and undervalued, he sent a letter to the British government opening up negotiations to effectively switch sides. And who was on the other end of that letter? Peggy's dear old friend, John André. André, at this point, was moving into his role as top spy master. Through Peggy Shippen, using secret couriers, André began a correspondence with Arnold. In his letters, Arnold began to offer information on the Continental Army in exchange for money. Treachery is an interesting thing. The perspective for how you look at it really depends on whose side you're on, and, of course, the given context. Let's not forget that even George Washington was considered a traitor, at least from the British perspective during that time. And speaking of Washington, by the summer of 1780, he faced a difficult situation. One of his top generals, Benedict Arnold, was court-martialed. In response to the court-martial verdict, Washington would issue a harsh rebuke against him. He still wanted to utilize Arnold and intended to offer him a prestigious field command once the storm had blown over. However, for Arnold, the damage was done. It was too late. He would lobby Washington for command of West Point, a request that puzzled the commander-in-chief. It's because he didn't know that Arnold was secretly proposing to hand over West Point to the enemy in exchange for a bunch of money and a high-ranking position in the British Army. West Point was a crucial strategic fortress on the Hudson River. Washington, puzzled as he was, agreed to Arnold's counter-request and would appoint him commander of West Point. The new position would offer Arnold the opportunity to deliver the strategic point, a move that would have dealt a serious blow to the American cause, potentially a fatal one. The covert plan hinged on Arnold's coordination with André and the deal the British were willing to cut. And once Arnold was the head of West Point, their coordination gained urgency. This was not the only case of espionage. During the war, spies played a crucial role on both sides, using coded letters, invisible ink, and hidden compartments to pass along vital information. In the case of West Point, on the surface, people are just confused. Arnold's relocating troops, moving cannons, and basically making the fort vulnerable to attack. His aides, Richard Varick and David Franks, noticed that Arnold is writing a bunch of stuff on his own. In addition, Joshua Smith, a Haverstraw lawyer, was helping Arnold in his treasonous dealings and was arousing the suspicion of some. Something fishy was going on. Arnold was busy preparing detailed intelligence about the fort's defenses, and in September of 1780, he sent word to Major John André to finalize the treacherous transaction, and he insisted on a personal meeting, which he would get. He received word that a John Anderson, fake name for André, was off the shore of Haverstraw in a British vessel called the Vulture. On the night of September 21st, Joseph Cahoon, a farmer, and his brother found themselves reluctantly coerced into an apparent urgent mission to row over to the Vulture and ferry André ashore. And they did just so, along with Joshua Smith. In a later account, Smith asserted that Arnold deceived him into assisting with the belief that their actions served America's interests. Nevertheless, once André was brought ashore near Haverstraw, a fateful meeting would take place. Arnold and André would meet for the first and only time. They spent much time finalizing the details of their plot. Arnold provided André with detailed notes on the fortifications at West Point. This was a big deal, and he wanted to make sure that things were all set. Eventually, they went to Smith's nearby house to rest. they awoke to the sounds of cannon fire. What was happening was the Vulture, André's intended means of escape, was coming under American fire and was forced to retreat downriver. This left André stranded behind enemy lines. Arnold tells André that he's going to have to go through what was known as the neutral ground, referring to Westchester, which at that point was basically a no man's land. Now, I just want to point out that as a spy, André had been given 3 rules by General Clinton. Don't go behind enemy lines, don't change out of uniform, and don't take any documents from Arnold. On the fateful journey André was about to take through Westchester, he would break all 3. Arnold insisted that he change clothes. Joshua Smith helped by lending him some. Arnold also gave André a pass under his assumed name of John Anderson. And so, on a misty Saturday morning, John André, a.k.a. John Anderson, began to navigate through checkpoints in Westchester. In the meantime, 3 Patriot men of the 1st Westchester Militia were on guard near Tarrytown. These men were a part of George Washington's ragtag forces. You have David Williams, Isaac Van Wert, and John Paulding. Paulding had recently escaped from a British prison and was wearing a green Hessian coat he had acquired with nice buttons. Soon they noticed a man coming their way, and so they quickly emerged from the woods to block him. André had to do some quick thinking. This was the neutral ground. Who knows what side they were on? He noticed Paulding's Hessian coat and made an educated guess that they were loyalists. So he goes, "Gentlemen, I hope you belong to our party." "What party?" one of the 3 men asked. "The lower party," André replied, referring to the British. The men answered, "We do." Thinking he was safe, André revealed that he was a British officer and shouldn't be detained. To his shock, though, Paulding says, "We're Americans." At that point, André tries to pass as an American by showing the pass given to him by General Arnold. However, Paulding's instincts were stirred. Something about André's demeanor and the changing of his story just didn't sit right with him. So he decided to search him. André's overcoat, jacket, shirt, and boots were removed, revealing nothing. When Paulding ordered his stockings removed, André's composure cracked, and out from under his feet fell several crumpled sheets of paper detailing the American forces at West Point. The infamous boot papers. André would begin to offer them dry goods and other items as a bribe, but the militiamen thankfully resisted the bribes and instead took him to the Continental Army headquarters in North Castle. There, he was dealt with by Colonel Elijah Sheldon's Continental Dragoons. One of those dragoons, Lieutenant Colonel John Jameson, almost sent André back to Arnold at West Point. Thankfully, in the end, André was detained, though, with one aide being sent to inform General Benedict Arnold and another to notify General George Washington, although both were delayed. Over in Arnold's world, on the morning of September 25th, he was having a nice breakfast. His wife Peggy was there, Alexander Hamilton, and others. During the meal, a letter arrived for Arnold, and after he read it, he quickly excused himself. He was informed of André's capture and realized it was only a matter of time before his treachery would be found out. Leaving behind his wife, he fled and catches up to the Vulture, where he boards and gets away. Soon Washington would go to West Point, and he's completely unaware of the situation, and surprised to see that the place is in complete disarray. He goes across the river to where Arnold lived and finds Peggy in hysterics, and Washington buys her story of not being involved in the treachery. Washington orders Arnold's arrest, and soon word of his treason would spread. Perhaps it was best described in orderly books at the time as treason of the blackest dye. Washington was truly shaken by the affair. and after André was ferried over to Tapan in Rockland County, he ordered a thorough investigation and trial. Despite André's charm and the respect he commanded among his captors, the memory of Nathan Hale's execution was still burning bright, and so André was convicted of espionage and given an execution date set for October. He would await his grim fate in a local tavern now known as the Old 76 House. Even though he had a harsh judgment, Washington wanted to treat André fairly, in part to counter the British mistreatment of Nathan Hale. An attempt was made with the British to trade André for Arnold, but it didn't pan out, and the execution clock continued to tick. Finally, the day came on October 2nd, 1780. Hundreds of spectators gathered in Tapan. André, looking good in his British regimentals, marched to the gallows. The talented artist and charismatic major walked with an air of dignity, acknowledging acquaintances with a polite bow. He requested to be shot, which was a more honorable death than hanging, but his request was denied. In response, he declared, "I am reconciled to my death, but I detest the mode." He bandaged his own eyes and adjusted the noose around his neck. When asked any last words, he replied, "Nothing, but to request that you will witness to the world that I bear my fate like a brave man." The drop followed, leaving the crowd in a stunned silence. He was 30 years old. His execution stirred sympathy and sorrow, and he was buried in an unmarked, shallow grave. Later, his body was exhumed from its New York grave and taken to Westminster Abbey. Arnold went from being a celebrated hero to a reviled traitor almost overnight, and he was not received with open arms in Great Britain. The three honest militiamen, Paulding, Van Wert, and Williams, were revered in their lifetimes for their patriotic actions and were celebrated with medallions and pensions. Despite this, the captor's legacy began to face scrutiny and reinterpretation in the 19th and 20th centuries. Perhaps a more balanced perspective is needed. They played a significant role in an important chapter of American history, and it's a story that we should never forget. Have a good one.